Most people watch the news, see the horror in the world, and think to themselves, I can't imagine how hard that is. And then they change the channel because it's too painful to watch. Advocates, on the other hand, step up every single day to sit right next to people feeling pain. They meet people on the worst days of their lives. Victim advocates have a really unique role in this world. My work is a constant love letter to victim advocates to sit with people in the depths of hell. For their bravery, I want to thank every victim advocate on this planet. And although my role as a trainer is to teach advocates skills and theories that they may use in the line of duty, I often find that the advocates teach me much more. This podcast is my nod to the brilliant people who've attended my workshops and opened my eyes to new ideas every day. I'm Dr. Kate Watson, and this is Advocate Insights.
Welcome to Advocate Insights, folks. I'm Dr. Kate Watson, and I have another really great guest with me today. Today, we are joined by Jala Powell, who's a youth advocate. So, Jala, what else can you tell us about you?
Thank you, Dr. Kate. Well, I am a youth program manager here in Indianapolis for the Domestic Violence Network. I manage our youth network, which is a school-based advocacy group for teens in their schools to advocate against teen dating violence. And I also manage our curriculum, the Change Project, which is presented to schools all across Indy.
That's got to keep you, unfortunately, rather busy.
Always.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you and I spoke a little while ago about the work that you do. I learned so much about all the different things you have your hands in really positive ways. And what stood out to me was how much you were saying about your ability to engage with young people. And I have to tell you, Jayla, when I travel around and do workshops, it's one of the questions I get most often is like, what do I do if I'm trying to help a teenager and they just keep shrugging at me or rolling their eyes at me or giving me 1 and 2 word responses? So I'm coming to you now because I think of you as the person who knows how to do this well. What would you like to share with our audience about engaging with young people?
Well, I used to be a teacher. I was a teacher for 4 years before I started working at DVN. And I started with elementary and then I moved into middle. And now that I work at DVN, I work with high schoolers and middle schoolers. So I've had the age range of all students at this point. I think one of the first things I learned as a teacher was that they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I think relationships are important. I think that if you don't have a relationship, it's very hard to have a child engage with you or any type of teenager engage. I meet kids for that change project that we do. That's 4 hours in a week. And I have students just pouring out their hearts and pouring out their life stories in those 4 hours. And then I have teachers that are like, oh my gosh, you got them to talk. And I haven't heard them talk all year. And it's because I'm very personable and I let them talk. A lot of people don't like to let youth talk. And if they feel like they can't be heard, they're not going to want to talk.
So already something jumped out at me. You said teachers will say, oh my God, you got them to talk. But Jayla, your phrasing was, I let them talk, which is really different. It's when we say, like, how do I get someone to talk to me? It sounds so like evil genius, manipulative. But your phrasing was, the thing is that's different is I'm letting them do it.
Mhm. I think I have my previous experience in all of my work, because before I was a teacher, I worked at an after school program that was a summer camp in the summertime. And our coordinators, our directors would always say, like, you're the coolest person in the world to them until you're not. You're the coolest person in the world. They want to do everything that you do until you're not. And being the coolest person in the world means I'm not letting you just run like crazy, but I'm giving you a great example and I'm allowing you to be the human that you are. I think there's a lot of minimizing youth in their voices and just discrediting them when they have a lot to offer. But I also share a lot about myself as well. Even in like those 4 hours that I'm teaching the Change Project, I share a lot about myself. Nothing that crosses the boundaries of I'm a guest here and you are students, but always enough to bridge the gap of I was a teenager at some point. I understand where you are and I get it. Does that
Mhm.
make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. No, what you're saying makes a lot of sense. And I guess I think back, well, I think about those times where maybe an adult is trying to quote unquote get someone to talk to them. I think teens read that instantly, that they know you're trying to get me to talk. And that is off putting, shuts them down, makes them want to do quite the opposite of talk to you. And your approach is more about building relationships and connecting. And I have to tell you, Jayla, I'm with you on this idea of share something about you. I think we've become terrified to do that in this work. And I've said it on the podcast before that I think we need to lighten up a little bit and like be willing to share just a little something, even if it's the name of your dog or whatever, just like a little something that shows you're not just this mysterious figure who's here to try and get something from them, but that you're bringing something as well.
Oh, absolutely. I always say hard work is hard work. I've noticed a lot of people jumping into work with youth because they think like, oh, I'm going to save these kids. It's not about saving kids. It's about supporting youth. It's about showing them something, teaching them something, leading them somewhere, but not forcing them to do anything. I don't want to force any child ever to do anything, but I do want to support them in the path that they decide to take or allow them to make better decisions, show them better decisions, or show them better options. I think when I talk about like sharing pieces of myself, I think in personal work, you have to be personal and I will share with the kids. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember when I was 15, I dated this person and this happened. And then I was so scared to tell this adult. But when I told this adult, they were actually really helpful. So they understand I'm not telling you to tell an adult trying to get yourself in trouble, but no, tell an adult because this adult can actually help you. Or, and like they laugh at a lot of things that I say. And because we talk about such a heavy topic, I like to keep it light. I don't I don't allow them to make jokes in very serious moments. I do correct that, especially if it's an insensitive comment, but I
Mhm.
do allow them to be youth because at some point it is something funny because it's like, oh my gosh, why would you say that? But also, if it's something serious, we do like to address it and understand, like, hey, I know that you thought it was funny, but this person may not. And it's like it's a teaching moment, a teachable moment to teach them like there's a time and place for everything. So yeah, we can giggle at this, but we also got to make sure we hold space for these people that don't think that this is funny.
Both are so important, that what you're describing, like being able to be light and fun and laugh at things and know how to not laugh and take something seriously. They go hand in hand because if you ever really want to get, and this is not just for kids, I think this goes for adults as well. If you really want to get someone's attention and say, hey, wait a minute, that's not funny, I think it's a more powerful moment if they know you to be someone who is lighthearted and can take a joke and does find the joy in things. People might take it a lot more seriously and say, "Oh wow, like I know Jayla to be somebody who loves to laugh, and if this is a moment where Jayla is saying stop the record, I should really stop the record." I think it's too easy to dismiss people as like, "Oh, that person just has no sense of humor, they just don't like to have fun." But if you have shown yourself to be someone who does like to have fun, then you have more of a leg to stand on.
Absolutely. I have a blast with the kids. I think because we have so many like teachable moments where we give them a chance to talk, we have a lot of them give their input. And I'm like, okay, let me hear about why you think that. Elaborate on that for me, please. And I don't think they get that opportunity enough. I think it's very hard for people to engage youth because it's it's the idea of I'm the adult, so I know more. I'm the adult, so I should take the lead. I think they have too much of social media penetrating their world and penetrating their view on relationships. So I think having that space where they do get to share what they're going through in their own relationships without interruption, without judgment. I'm very blank face when they tell me everything. They're like, oh, yeah, my partner did this. And I'm just like, okay. And I can't give a react. Even inside my body, I'm having like this knee jerk. I can't show it because then it shuts them down. In my head, I'm like, oh my God. But on my face, there's nothing there because I just have to let them have their moment. And I think it creates a lot of space where they're like, you didn't say anything, Miss Jayla. What are your thoughts? And I'm like, what are your thoughts? Let's hear your thoughts first. I have to
Mhm.
give them the space so I can know how to approach it. I think every child needs something different. And I learned so much from them too. They teach me so much about the world, especially like the world that I don't really interact on social media because of how unhealthy it can be at times. And they share so much with me about everything that's changing. And I learned so much from them about how to engage youth as well. They teach me a lot. They're like, oh no, they'll come if there's food. They'll come if there's music. They'll come if you have this. We're doing a photo booth at one of the schools because they were like, oh, what if we do a photo booth in the lunchroom? You know, people love to take selfies, Miss Jayla. I was like, I can do that. Let's make it work. And I think they appreciate it because I'm just honest. I think being honest is the big one. Like you said, teenagers especially, are really great at reading whether or not you're being genuine.
Yeah.
I just creating a space where they feel like they can talk.
It sounds like you are. And by the way, if you saw me looking away, I was making a little list of what the ideas are I think you've come up with. So let me see if I've captured them, okay? Because I'm gonna look at my list here. And they're not in the order that you said them for sure.
Oh,
Um, but one thing that you seem to be saying is really helpful working with young people is honesty. Being genuine, being an authentic person, sharing a little bit about yourself, not too much, not to overdo it, but some honesty and also clear expectations. Um, you've also said this piece about having to have some self-control when maybe you want to have a big reaction or you want to judge sometimes or correct them, but you've learned to have some self-control, manage your reactions and stay calm, even if they say shocking things, because it then contributes to that space where they feel like they can share more. You've talked about using humor to make things fun and enjoyable. You've talked about taking this approach of not trying to dominate or control or make them do anything. And I have to tell you, out of all the things that you've said, what's really standing out to me is how much you walk into this environment ready to just enjoy them. And I want to pause on that because I think in a lot of settings, it's normal for people to worry, what if I walk in there and they don't like me? Like I'm a trainer for a living, right? I walk into rooms and wonder, what if this group hates me? What if they don't like me? Or I think this goes through a lot of people's minds. But for you, you are not focused on what if these young people don't like me? You're focused on enjoying them. And I think that makes a big difference. You walk in excited to enjoy them, enjoy hearing about their science tests or whatever's going on in their day. And that then shifts the focus away from, I want you to like me. And I think that's so important. What do you think?
I think I will be honest and say my first youth network meeting because it was our first time. This is the first year that it's been back running since the pandemic started. And I was like, I don't know these children. I hope it goes well. I just hope that like the whole process went well. And I I was concerned about whether or not they would like the programming, not really of me, but like what we were going to be doing in Youth Network. Because I gave them a good rundown of like, this is the idea behind Youth Network. This is what y'all are here for. This is what we're going to do this year. Are we all great with that? And they're like, yeah. And like we did a lot of icebreakers and it was just for us to like warm up and get to know each other before we dive into all the logistics of everything. And I think that helped with minimizing the idea of, oh my gosh, I hope they like me. I hope they like me. I don't really, I don't need them to like me. I want them to enjoy the process though. I do want them to enjoy the process. But I think what you said about me, like, walking in like, I just want to enjoy them. Absolutely. I think watching their growth is the biggest thing because seeing a kid that I had when he was 9 years old and now he's 18 years old going off to college, and now I can see like all the changes that he's made and like how much growth he's made, but also some of the ways that he's still the same. I really do enjoy like walking in and wanting to get to know them. I think wanting to get to know them is the biggest thing. I'm ready to have fun always. I think
Yeah.
that helps.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. And the list that I've developed here I think will be really useful for folks. Jayla, is there anything that you haven't said yet that you'd like to make sure you get the chance to say?
I think always get on their level.
Mm.
I think come down from your adult pedestal, get on their level, no matter how little the kid is. I think they still want the validation. They still want, those hand claps, those pats on the back. They still want that um, reassurance, that affirmation that they're doing something good. I think to come off our adult pedestals and remain humble and remember where we were in that space, in that age, I think will help a lot of people with engaging youth. Once you put yourself in those shoes, empathy is everything when it comes to teenagers.
Yeah. Well, that's a really good place to wrap up this episode. I think if anyone wanted to be left with a really positive message, empathy is everything when it comes to engaging teenagers. Thank you for that. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us. To the listeners, if you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please send me a message at kate@advocacyacademy.org. That's Kate, Kate, at Advocacy Academy, like it's all one big word, .org. And check us out next time when we explore more advocate insights.